Heck. What is up, YouTube land? I'm dating when we are recording this, but the Philadelphia Phillies baseball team just lost and are out of the playoffs literally 2 minutes ago. And as someone who lives in Phillyville, based.
Spencer has to be contrarian and not have any pride in his home country, or home county, I guess.
Have you been to Philly?
I was just kidding.
No, but I actually am very prideful of, I think PA is pretty cool. People always give Pennsylvania a lot of crap on, like, memes and social media. I like Pennsylvania a lot. The only thing I don't like, it can't really help, which is the weather. The fact that we get, like, all 4 seasons. Right now, I don't know if you notice this, because you don't usually go out, like, super early, but we're at the time of the year where it is, like, pretty dang cold in the morning. And then by, like, 11 a.m., you're like, oh, it's hot. So, like, when we tell
I'm still wearing shorts, and I'm not, like, a big, like, wear shorts all year guy, but, like, if it's, like, you know, good, like, in the 60s, I'm not going to wear pants yet.
No.
And I'm just waiting for, like, boy, this fall is weird. Like, every day is, like, mid-70s.
Right. I don't know if it has anything to do with, obviously we're way north of all the hurricanes, but I do know that, like, a big event like that can, you know, can mess with weather, like, far away.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So, I don't know if it's that we're going through, like a high-pressure part because of the low pressure of the hurricane, but it has been very, very weird. But yeah, when I send the kids off to school, like, literally when they go out to the bus, it is, like, cold. Like, it is, like, 40-ish, 45-ish. And by the time they get home, it's, like, literally 70. And it's like, yeah, that's a bit ridiculous of a change. So, it's a very, very, very weird time of year. And the next 2-3 weeks, that should change.
That's good.
But you know it's not going to change in the next 2-3 weeks? The Phillies being in the playoffs. Because they're not.
I just hope it doesn't... I hope it lasts... like fall weather lasts for more than like a single week. And
right.
It's not like 70 then 30 every day.
Yeah, and that's what we've been having
like the last 5 years in a row.
Just absolutely no fall. Just immediate winter. It's gonna be interesting. For reasons I won't spend a ton of time on. Me and Ferris are going down to Texas in early November, and I think that'll make me appreciate Pennsylvania's weather. Like, when I get back, I feel like I'm gonna be like, oh, it's cold as heck. Because, like, I'm expecting it to be, like, in early November, like, mid-70s down in Texas, you know? So I'm excited to, when I come back, to be like, it's not so bad here. It could be worse.
That sounds pretty good.
I also like these many... Oh, that's very cool. Oh, you have to do that to get to, like, a major,
yeah,
a major part. Okay.
This is Turtle Rock, and you have to save some turtles to get there. This is the Ice Rod dungeon.
Ooh. So are you 100% complete with, Echoes, then?
I didn't 100% that game. I might go back to it, but I had my fun.
Is there, like, just kind of time-consuming? Because usually Zelda games before Breath of the Wild were not ridiculously time-consuming to 100%.
No, it's probably just, it's like the not fun part of 100%ing it, because I did all the side quests I saw, and I got all the echoes I wanted, and I think I ended up with, like, 16 hearts, and there was, like, 8 dungeons, so that's, like, you know, 20 heart pieces. I still have, like, 12 to 16 left.
Right.
But a lot of those heart pieces are probably just like, go here and do this thing.
Yeah, not necessarily fun ones like mini games and such.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about, and this has been kind of a hot topic in gaming. Ubisoft in general is doing not good. And that's fine with me because...
Did you hear about what's happening now with Ubisoft?
Maybe?
They're they confirmed that Tencent is looking to buy it.
Yes, and actually that's what I wanted to talk about. And I actually really do not want that to happen. Because... Well, first of all, it's weird, because I was listening to a couple podcasts about it, and Tencent, which is I'm 99% sure is a Chinese-run company, that also has, like, their hands in a lot of really big things, like, Epic Games and such. So they make just tons of money. But apparently, Tencent, like, rarely ever buys, how do you say, struggling companies? So it would be very odd for them.
I think Ubisoft has some decent IPs, and because Ubisoft is doing so badly, they can buy them for cheap.
Yeah, yeah. I just kind of don't want that to happen, because that just means that there will be even, like, less players in the game world. Insofar that, like, just kind of like every other part of life, like, a few elite companies own everything, and I really don't want it to get to be that. It's already, like, really bad with, like... I keep forgetting, honestly, that Microsoft owns Activision. I have it in my headcanon, of course, that they own Bethesda, which doesn't bother me, truthfully, because Bethesda's games are kind of trash. But the fact that they own Activision, I, like, keep forgetting, and I'm just like, wow, we're getting to the point where, like, all these companies are going to be owned by the same, like, 4 or 5 companies, and that's just how it ends up being with every single thing.
Yeah. Like,
whether it's media, where it's like Disney ends up owning everything, right? Or you know, tech, where it's like Microsoft ends up owning everything. It's very frustrating. And besides antitrust stuff, there's, like, not much you can do about it. But it's just something that I would not prefer to be the case. I think that every company always works better, and it's better for us as consumers when there are more hands in the pot, if that makes sense.
yes.
I'm truly, truly, truly anti-monopoly. Not that any of this stuff would be, like, monopoly per se, but it's getting to the point where, like, I know monopolies literally mean, like, oh, it's one single company that owns everything. But I also think that when you get to the point when there's only a couple, you're, like, nearing a monopoly anyway, you know? And we're really getting to that point with gaming, and I do not like it.
And it's weird because Microsoft owns a lot, but they're also, like, you know, not doing great.
Right.
And they're, like, massive layoffs at, like, Activision.
Right.
And, I mean, it makes sense. They had to buy Activision for $69 billion, which is just an insane amount to me.
Right.
But they also, like, Xbox isn't doing good. Game Pass subscribers aren't growing, thankfully.
So what happens when Microsoft buys a ton of companies and then decides, because they're Microsoft and they're big enough to do this, goes, we don't want to be a part of gaming anymore? Well, what happens then? I mean, obviously mass layoffs are already happening. But what happens when they're like, no more Xbox, right? Where Xbox division is done. Microsoft will still exist as a company forever. They can easily just be like, no more Xbox. Well, then what happens, right, to all these companies?
Yeah.
Is there a fire sale?
Yeah.
Do
they're
they
probably just gonna sell it off.
Right. Do they just go, okay, these companies don't exist anymore? I mean, we've seen EA take a bunch of really good studios and essentially just kill them off, you know? I forget the studio that did Dead Space, Visceral, I think. They're just so... Bullfrog. There are just literally dozens of examples, and I just worry that these few companies that only care about having their stock price continuously go up for all time forever, and that's all they care about, is just really messing up the game industry.
It's very true. Yeah, and you mentioned Paradox. That's a good example of just one of the most mismanaged, over, like, just chasing the biggest profits, and in the end they're just like, yep, not good enough, we're just going to kill you off. And it's like, what a waste.
What's that company that did Hi-Fi Rush? Tango? Tango Software?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, that's another example of them just being like, eh. And it's like, dude. And yet they can waste all this money on so many other things.
Oh.
It's just very frustrating. And because of extreme, I don't know if you want to call it nepotism or favoritism, but you have these people making these just god-awful decisions, and they're still around. Whereas if you were in any normal job, like and you weren't like CEO or like way up there, you would be fired if you like made this many mistakes. Like the fact that and this isn't video game related, but the fact that Kathleen Kennedy like still is the head of Star Wars is like one of the most amazing things ever.
I think it's like the only explanation is that she has dirt on some Disney executive. It makes no sense.
I mean, who else could literally get to the point? Like, Star Wars is such a brilliant IP, and it literally just it printed money, right? If you went to someone 10 years ago and said, no one's gonna care about Star Wars in 10 years, like, what would you say, Trev? You would say, okay, bud, sure, right? But literally no one cares. I have, and this is obviously, every example I give is simply my small example in this very small part of the world, but I have people reaching out to sell Star Wars, like, toys and merchandise, like, literally constantly.
Yeah, people just do not want to.
And I decline on it all. Like, whereas 5-10 years ago, Black Series stuff, Star Wars Black Series was, like, pretty freaking big, you know? And, like, I never thought I would get to the point of being like, oh, you have Star Wars merch? Yeah, that's absolutely a dead thing. I'm not interested.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's funny. I don't like pop trades that often, but if like it's kind of like, you know, I'm not doing like that much or whatever. I'm just like, whatever, I'll do it. But like a lot of times I'm just like, yeah, sure, bring them in. It's just like 80% stars. And I was like, oh, of course. It doesn't really matter because
even
like
even older Star Wars stuff like Luke, Leia, and Han is like not doing well because they just ruined everything. Obviously, the stuff from like Rogue One and Force Awakens and whatever is like nothing, you know. But I mean, how can you take an IP with so much goodwill and just ruin it, and then still have a job? Like that's so crazy to me. I would have fired myself if like all of a sudden like
yeah, it's just embarrassing.
A ton of people if a ton of people came to me and was like, hey, we don't like your store anymore, and I was like, oh, okay, can you tell me why so I can like see it? They'd be like, oh, it's because of you, like literally you, there's nothing else, it's literally you. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Well, I'm gonna give myself a big bonus, and I'm gonna stay around here forever and not change anything. Like, that's literally how it goes. And it's like, what?
It's
what?
Like, no, it's even worse than that, because it would be like, well, here's my valid complaints, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all those reasons. And you're just like, okay, I'm gonna do all those things, but worse now. And I get a huge bonus.
Right, no, you absolutely are right. Yeah, where it's like, hey, listen. No, it would be like this. It would be like, hey, listen, I really love your store, but I'm having a lot of problems, and I want to give you some valid criticisms because I really want to still love it and support it and whatever. Will you please listen to this? And me going, wow. You are not a real fan. You are the worst.
And that's like,
And what, so you want me, so like if someone was like, hey, during LPs, I want you to talk less. And I heard that from like first of all, I don't care. It's LPs. We don't make money on it. But if they were like, if it was our job, and they were like, Spencer needs to talk 20% less. And I promise I will donate a bunch of money, and everyone's saying this. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, actually what I'm going to do is going to talk 50% more, because F you. Like, that's literally what they're doing. And that's actually pretty much what, I mean, to circle back, that's what, like, Ubisoft and Xbox and all these places are doing. Just literally being like, oh, you don't like this thing? Well, how about 10 times more of it, Chudette? Okay. I think it sucks because there are, how do I put this? People on the internet in general are too, critical of everything all the time. And, like, literally you could be like, you could have, like, something that's great, and you are gonna find a percentage of people that absolutely hate it. You know what I mean? If you're like, I like eating food, you would get a bunch of people just being like, actually, food is the worst. You know, whatever. And it's like, you just kind of have to filter some of it out, right? But when you see it over and over again, and you still just don't listen to it, it's like, wow, you are... How can you be so, tone deaf, you know? And that's what all these companies are doing. Except for kind of Nintendo. Sometimes. For the games they make.
Nintendo does their own thing, whether you like it or not. And I think, historically, it's mostly been good, but a lot of times they can be very, very stubborn about just needing to do new stuff. And that's, like, the big, like, that's the only thing that matters to them sometimes.
Oh, is having, like, I use this word lightly, but a new gimmick in, like, every single system. Is that what you're saying?
I guess Wii U is definitely a good example of that, but I think it mostly comes down to some of their games, especially during the so-called Nintendo Dark era when they were struggling with the 3DS and Wii U. It just felt like a lot of those games were being changed just for the sake of change, and like, sometimes it can pan out and it be good, but sometimes it's just like, objectively worse, and you're just like, why don't you just make the thing? It's like literally less work.
I guess a great example would be Star Fox. All people want is a game that's just kind of like a better Star Fox 64, and they just refuse to do it. And it's very weird.
And the very frustrating thing about Star Fox is that I think that's a game that they could change up a lot of elements with it, but Star Fox Zero is still like, they've been remaking Star Fox 1 for, like, literally 30 years. Like,
Right.
Star Fox 64 is a remake of Star Fox 1.
Right.
Zero's a remake of Star Fox 1. And it's like, just do something new. But all they do is, like, they just recycle the same stuff. But then they introduce, like, the terrible, terrible gamepad gimmicks and controls in that game. That's the selling point? It's like, no, it doesn't work like that.
I mean, they could pretty easily, I could see it in my head, like, taking Star Fox 64 and just making it bigger and better, you know? Games still exist like that.
And it's especially baffling because they already did Star Fox 64 3D on the 3DS in 2012, 2013. And then just a couple years later, it's just like, here it is again, the same game again. It's like, come on, guys. Do something new.
I honestly don't understand why they haven't... At least they tried with Star Fox on the Wii U, but I honestly don't understand why they haven't tried to make an F-Zero game since GameCube.
Miyamoto's...
Because the GameCube one is, like, really fun, and I can just imagine with the technology they have nowadays, it would just be just great and
Miyamoto
quick and
has talked about that in interviews, and they literally don't do because they're like, we can't think of anything new to do with it. And it's like...
You can't just make, like, a better, faster game.
Apparently not. Although for their, you know, the games that sell 1 million copies, it's like, well, we can just do 4 new Super Mario Bros. Games in 5
Yeah,
years.
that's kind of stupid because, like, with... I mean, with something like Mario Kart, I remember with Mario Kart 7, they were like, it's Mario Kart, except for now you have parachutes. And that was, like, the big thing. So I guess they can make it because now it has parachutes. And Mario Kart 8, they're like... It's bigger and better, but now you can do anti-grav, and it's like, would you literally have not made Mario Kart 8 if it didn't have anti-grav? Like, is that what you're telling me? You know, kind of thing.
Probably not.
Yeah, right.
I bet that's... Well, it definitely helps that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has sold like 60 million units or something insane on the Switch. But, like... I almost feel like Mario Kart 9 isn't out because it's just like, we can't think of anything new to do.
That's just... Oh no, not this one where it goes down for like 1,000,000.
This is probably the most complicated dungeon by quite a bit.
I mean, at this point that you're down to... What?! That's really cool. I love that. I love that.
This is funny. Just pay attention to... There's one locked door. I swear there's like one small key in this dungeon, but just take note of how much effort we're going to have to do to get one small key, whereas that big key we were just given for basically free.
Right. Just ride it to the bottom.
Okay, there's definitely 2 small keys in this, but
Still.
there's one specifically that is very arduous to get. Yeah, I specifically practiced this part again, although it's been a couple days now. Just because I was like, this is the most complicated. Well, okay, there we go. So this is the easy one. I think there's one other small key, and that one is the very hardcore one. Oh, whoops.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know, it's just... I wish Nintendo didn't always think that they had to, like, constantly, change so much. Like, sometimes it's... Yes, you can get complacent. I mean, look at something like Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed. But, like, every single thing doesn't have to be, oh, it's this gimmick. Like, even Zelda has been, like, that's a thing. Like, Wind Waker, sailing gimmick, Twilight Princess, Dark and Light gimmick.
And Wolf gimmick.
And Wolf gimmick, yeah. I guess Wolf gimmick makes more sense. Minish Cap, big and small gimmick. Oracle of Ages and Seasons, time and seasons gimmick, right? It's like, if you explained every game after including Link to the Past, you would say, blah gimmick. I guess except for maybe Link's Awakening. That's a pretty... That doesn't really have, like, a gimmick necessarily.
I think it really, they started on gimmicks the turn in the millennium.
That's true.
I think...
I mean, Ocarina of Time, I would not say has a gimmick.
No. I think it's just...
Majora's Mask, I would say the masks are the...
It's
I would say the masks are the gimmick.
It's the most fleshed out gimmick, but it's definitely a gimmick.
Yeah.
Because it's never been in.
And I want to be clear. I'm not saying any of these are bad.
Yeah, and gimmick doesn't necessarily mean
that.
No.
I mean, Minish Cap is a great game. Oracle of Seasons and Ages are a great game. But like, you look at Zelda 2, and Zelda 2 is just an adventure game with no real gimmick. It's just like you're on an adventure, you know. And I kind of miss that, you know.